Hi! In this video, we're going to break down the Gumball Joy virus from the creator of Ali Original. You'll learn how the virus came about, how it came about in the first place, and much more. First, we're going to start with episode 3 of the series, because that's where we can find out all the information we need to know about the virus and the universe. It was an ordinary, simple day. Gumball was in a bad mood because of Monday, which stood on his calendar. Richard, noticing the disgruntled expression on his son's face, decided to support him by giving him a hug. However, the fact that he'd hugged him would have huge consequences. Afterward, Gumball was out of his mind in part, which puzzled his brother and younger sister. After all, Gumball these days was quite different from what he was today. That same day at the stake, Gumball was acting suspiciously strange. He distracted the other students and drew attention to himself in every possible way. Teacher Simeon, noticing that Gumball was clearly having mental problems, sent him to the principal. By then, his illness had already progressed. Principal Browns reprimanded him for insulting a teacher, and Gumball suddenly attacked him. Thus, the principal became the first person infected at the hands of Gumball, and the sad Gumball at that point disappeared without a trace. During lunch recess, Principal Browns suddenly started attacking students for no reason at all. Thus began the basic story of this virus. Principal Brown's crisis caused students to experience symptoms such as red eyes, dilated pupils, incessant smiling in the victims, excessive sweating, and hair loss. In addition, this virus has a strange effect. It causes a deformation of the body that makes the infected a little taller and larger than they were before. To stay safe, survivors should disinfect areas of the body, wear masks to avoid droplet infection, and stay in a group. In the event of an attack, you can run away, or as a last resort engage in combat. Cold weapons are best for this, and firearms if needed. If you are bitten, separate yourself from the group and accept your fate. All information presented in the video is taken from the Anasa diary. Now that we've dealt with the virus, let's move on to the main story of this universe. In an empty school hallway, Darwin and Anasa are discussing the effects of the virus, while Darwin wants to help the other survivors and the infected. Anase feels that leaving the school is the best solution. Darwin, clearly frustrated, begins to brood as Gumball appears. The events of the second episode take us to the Watterson house. Nicole comes home from work and notices that the kids are still not home. She worries, asking Richard about it. The one in response asks not to worry, assuring her that everything is fine. That night, Anase opens her diary, revealing the fates of some of the characters from the animated series. Masami, infected. Stage 3, she becomes more aggressive as she floats in the air. Her speed has increased significantly. Angtha has a picture and date attached. October 16.0616. The next infestation is a banana named Joe. Stage 2, the virus oozes from his body. One eye is bigger than the other. And while the picture was being taken, he was crying and begging for help. He also said the phrase, "I can't stop smiling." The date of the photo is October 15.2916. And the final infected person is Mr. Brown. Final stage infection. 3. His physique had changed significantly, becoming larger and more powerful. He's lost a significant amount of body hair due to the virus, and his behavior has become extremely aggressive. The date of this image is October 15.4916. And now Darwin. Status unknown. As Anase was staring at her eyes with slits in her eyes, around the corner of her locker, she noticed someone approaching. Ready to attack, she startled Carmen. A dialogue broke out between them. Carmen, not understanding anything, begins to question Anase about it, about where the virus came from and what we're going to do. Anase responds by saying she'll explain later, and gave her a tissue to protect her from the virus. Meanwhile, Gumball's terrified parents called the police. But nothing was found. Their last hope was Elmore School. Midnight they arrived at the school, which had become a real threat to their lives. Before that, they debated whether to go or not. Eventually, after some time wandering the classrooms, they came across an infected Joe, but already in the 3rd stage. Joe, in order to infect them, started running at full speed. But Nikoleva made the kill. At the noise of the fight, 2 more infected came running. Leslie and Jamie. At Richard's shout, Anais ran out of the office and knocked Leslie down. But Jamie, finding herself behind her, took the bat away from her. Anais, unable to find anything on her friend, took Carmen's cactus and hit Jamie as well. Upon reaching the base, Nicole began asking Anasa about Gumball and Darwin. While in the background, we see a diary with a picture of an infected Gumball. The 3rd episode screens the event I described and shows how Gumball became infected. And then we return to the current time, where Nicole is silently comforting Anais. In the corridor where the 2 infected were shut down, Director Brown appears. He reinfects the victim and raises them to their feet, thus giving them even more strength and healing their wounds at the same time. The events of this series are very similar to the original, in the sense that the first infected person becomes Principal Brown, the mass infection occurs with the canteen, and so on. The horror has 3 stages while the original only has 5. In the fan version, the first stage makes you smile uncontrollably. Then in the second stage, the host begins to see hallucinations and draw attention to themselves. The final 3rd stage turns the person into a zombie with a hint of intelligence to make decisions when necessary, in which he can reinfect others, thus bringing allies to their feet and healing wounds. In the series, however, the virus is much safer compared to the fanfic. At least in the series, to defeat the virus, all it takes is a sad tune to return the infected to their former state. As for details, the time and date of events are very similar to the TV series. While in the original, the events take place on January 16, the virus report starts at 16.36. The fan-made virus reports starts on October 16 at 15.49.